Hello everyone! Choosing a programming language, much like coding itself, is hard. What would make it even harder is the foolish idea of learning to code without using an AI. But that is manageable as long as the language you choose is nice, simple, and known for its beginner friendliness. So, naturally, I chose Rust. Rust has been voted the most loved programming language on Earth for a decade at this point. Almost nobody uses it for their first language due to its steep learning curve, ownership model, and type system. Good thing I do not understand what those things mean. Besides, I beat Promise Console Radan before it was nerfed, so how hard can it possibly be? Oh god damn it, man. Most people would tell you that what I'm doing is an advanced form of sadism. That, dear viewer, would be partially correct. Look, I am not studying computer science. I am an electrical engineering student, and after doing some research, I am convinced that Rust is the absolute best language for me to learn.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Because of my degree, I am going to be working with embedded and safety critical systems. If I do not end up unemployed, it would be pointless for me to learn a language that I will never use. So I outline some features I would absolutely need in a language to even consider it. First would be memory safety. So a guarantee of data not getting corrupted or accidentally deleted without me spending hours of my life checking every single line of code and of course debugging extensively. Second would be low-level hardware control. This is probably the most important feature. It lets me talk directly to the bare metal, to the sensors, to the motors, so anything microcontroller related. Determinism and predictability would be the third item on the list, meaning it runs the exact same way every single time, because I do not want random pauses to clean up memory and I do not want random crashes on certain conditions which happen once every blue moon. I need it to run the same every single time. The fourth item on the list will be robustness. I would appreciate it if the compiler catches errors before the code even runs, so it's harder to break the system later. This is very nice to have as a beginner in programming because it means my code will be more reliable from the get-go. Moving on to the last item on the list, a minimal runtime overhead, meaning it's lean, it's fast, which is of course critical when you only have a few kilobytes of memory on a very tiny device. As we know, engineering is mostly about making the cheapest thing that works and kills the least amount of people, or most amount of people, depending on your field, all within a budget that is randomly chosen by those who get a bigger paycheck than us. Anyways, I quickly arrived at the conclusion that I am basically describing the best use cases for Rust. Also, another very important thing is that Rust is very popular online and I found a lot of passionate people from whom I can learn, so that is of course an amazing bonus. Personally, I am a big believer in learning by researching, by reading official documentation and seeing real life examples. Of course, while I very aggressively bang my head against the wall until it works, as every engineer does from time to time. The Rust book is the gold standard when it comes to documentation. It has nice examples, justifications, theory, everything you would want. Let's imagine I do not know what a slice is. I will look it up and here is all the info you would need as well as nice examples. Now that the choice was made, I would have to actually practice this language. Thankfully, the Rust team prepared this amazing set of learning exercises called Rustlink. They are designed to get you used to writing Rust code, and people constantly recommend them as the perfect companion to the Rust book. And I have to say, they are right. They are amazing. Rustlinks were pretty good at teaching me how the language looks and how it functions. The difficulty was acceptable mostly until I tried to figure out threads and lifetimes. That part was honestly deeply confusing and I still have no idea what I was actually doing. Let's pause and try to visualize this. Imagine you have a book in a normal language like Python. Anyone can grab the book, copy it, throw it in the trash. Nobody really keeps track of it. The garbage collector just cleans up the mess later. But in Rust, there's a strict librarian called the borrow checker. If you want the book, you have to formally borrow the book. And if you give the book to someone else, you are moving the ownership. And you personally cannot read it anymore. If you try to read it, the compiler stops you. It's a pleasantly intuitive process once you get the hang of it, but initially it does feel like you are fighting the compiler. Anyways, I grinded through them, and of course I forgot to hit the record button for a few, so we only have about half of them as background footage. Finishing Rust links, obviously, isn't the same as actually knowing Rust. It does a great job of teaching you how to fix broken code, not how to build a program from scratch. In order to learn anything, you need to take those metaphorical training wheels off and actually do something, do a real project. I will shamelessly do what everyone else does and make a custom version of grep, because this has not been done 1 million times already. No sir, not at all. So, grep, or global regular expression print, is a command line utility used in Unix-like operating systems. It basically searches for a specific text pattern within a file or input stream. It's obvious we need to be able to parse command line arguments, a pattern to search, and the file in which to search. Initially, I thought I could just grab the arguments and throw them in a variable, but Rust being Rust, you have to use the standard libraries environment module, which returns an iterator. And here is where I encountered my first real battle with the language. I wanted to store the arguments in a nice little config struct, but because of that strict librarian I mentioned earlier, passing these string values around meant I kept getting hit with ownership errors. The compiler just refused to let me reference the strings because it couldn't guarantee they would live long enough. I sat there for a good 20 minutes questioning my life choices, and then I decided to go back to the Rust book. I found some information and I managed to figure it out after a while, but it really took me a long time. So, as the wonderful past me is rewriting this code without the 20-minute breaks between errors where I'm questioning my life choices, I would like to say what I learned from this project. First, test-driven development, or at least the idea of it. Writing tests for your function before you write the function so that you can quickly make something work, then refactor it to be good code, is in my mind a great help when you don't really know where to start. Mentally, it helps me to get things done instead of just falling down the rabbit hole of endless searching for solution and optimization, basically optimizing something that doesn't even exist yet. Aside from that, the actual experience of doing this, parsing arguments and interacting with the input-output system of the computer, was pretty fun. It was also kind of nice to make something. Even though I was mostly referring to the documentation for help, I feel like now I know how to think about a project and what to search for. I feel like the most valuable skill is knowing what to search and how to break down a problem, rather than having an exact vision, word for word, of your code in your head without ever looking at official resources. Like a real example from my code, I wanted to make something on my own, and that is a custom flag for case insensitive searching. So I looked it up, how to assign a value to a bool if the number of arguments was more than 3 and at least one was equal to -i, and I got this beautiful piece of code. I am quite happy about it. I'm mostly quite happy I managed to make something on my own. The guide in the Rust book was using environment variable to do the case insensitive searching, but I wanted to parse an argument like you do in normal grep, and I am very happy how it turned out, because it's my first real piece of code where I'm actually fixing something for a code which is mine. Looking back at it, I do not regret my choice of language. I believe Rust was the right choice. In the end, I could have chosen something simpler like Python, but I do not believe it would have actually helped me grow as an engineer. By choosing something hard, it made me need to research, to actually think critically, to adapt to the situation, to learn new techniques. If I chose something easy and I was just writing English and everything worked, I don't think I would have even been excited to practice every day. Because with this project, I wanted to have at least 1 hour of my day where I was writing code every single day. And so far it worked, because Rust for me was very interesting. I am a huge fan of From Software games. My favorite game of all time is probably Elden Ring, and I have to say, Rust is the Dark Souls of programming languages. It's hard, it's unforgiving, you have to do things its way, but I feel like it built me into something greater, like it improved me, and I got the confidence now that I can do more in this language. Well, this video took way too long. I'm sorry about that. I wanted to upload it earlier, but I spent the whole day of my free time working on the grep rewrite and then I got very busy. I hope this was an enjoyable experience. I would appreciate it if you hit the subscribe and like button. I'm starting work on the next video already and I believe it will be a bit more exciting than this one. That was it from me. I hope you have a wonderful day.